Hi, we're at the Wire office and joined by Neelanjan Sircar, who's a data scientist at Ashoka University and the Center for Policy Research in Delhi. Currently, what we're looking at is the known status for all seats, and the BJP is leading in 291 seats, the Congress in 50 seats. And Neelanjan has been focusing on the Hindi belt, North India essentially. And want to ask you, Neelanjan, what are you making of this so far? Is it too early to tell? It's nearly noon, but what are you feeling about the trends that we're seeing so far?
So I think the trends have consolidated. The trends have consolidated. They look almost exactly like 2014. So in 2014, we knew that 6 states gave the BJP about 70% of their seats, and those were Bihar, UP, MP, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. And if we look at the kinds of sweeps the BJP experienced then, we're seeing something very similar. UP is a little bit different because of the Gathbandhan, but otherwise the numbers look almost identical. And these are also places where the BJP is in head-to-head fights with the Congress for the most part. What we know from 2014, we'll have to see what the numbers are here. When they were in a head-to-head fight, the BJP won 91% of the time in 2014 with Congress. And if those kind of numbers are holding again, then the trends that we're seeing will hold all the way through.
Okay. And have you seen anything in terms of the configuration of this election that tells you that things are substantially different from how it was in 2014?
So I think the best way to think about this election, I gave you the names of those 6 states. The geographic base of the BJP is broadly still intact, but it has expanded to the east somewhat. So it's winning many more seats in West Bengal, in Orissa, some more in the northeast. And so when we look back and we see that the BJP's tally may actually increase from 2014 and the NDA's might, it really is just the consolidation of an existing geographic core and then the expansion into new areas.
So what does this mean for, sort of broadly and existentially, what does this mean for India, where we've often talked about coalition politics, and at least in this round of elections as well, there's been some thrust from the southern states that we should have a federal front, even if it's not led by the Congress. But when we're seeing this kind of consolidation plus expansion that you're talking about, what does that really mean for now, but also for the future? I mean, how is this ever going to be dislodged?
I mean, I think the 90s ushered in a very different era in the Indian party system where we saw this kind of fragmentation. Actually, before that, the rule had been some kind of centralized, charismatic politics. And it looks like from 2014, we seem to be returning back to that model. There are a lot of incentives in the system for presidentialism. MPs can't defect against their own parties. They don't have much policy making power. It is actually something that's fairly natural, right, to see this kind of consolidation. So I think when we look back in history, we will have seen the 90s up till 2014. So about a what is that, 25-year period, as a bit of a blip in Indian history as the party system was transitioning. What I would say is what is different, if we look at the way the BJP is organized, it's nothing unique to have a charismatic leader with this kind of organization at the state level, right? In fact, this looks a lot like a state level government that has been scaled up to a national level government. And that, I think, is the secret to what Modi's been able to do. He's basically treated all of the Hindi heartland as a single state. Yeah.
And what are some of the key fights in North India that you're looking at? I mean, we know there are lots of big wigs, fighting it out in North India. But what's coming across as surprising to you so far, or is everything kind of what you were expecting?
Well, I mean, I think the most surprising one right now is that Rahul Gandhi looks to be in trouble in Amethi, and I think that the significance, if these numbers hold and Smriti Irani is able to beat Rahul Gandhi, the cultural significance of the Congress losing in a seat like Amethi and what it means for BJP and its notion of Congress Mukt Bharat and all of this, I think that's really going to have an outsized impression, symbolic value. The other one, obviously, which we've spent a lot of time talking about, is Pragya Thakur from Bhopal. Now, she never really had much of a chance of losing. It's a seat the Congress hasn't won since 1984. The BJP's won it since. It was a safe seat for the BJP. But just symbolically, what it means for the BJP to put such an individual in a safe seat and what kind of image it is trying to project to the rest of the country and the rest of its own base.
So, I mean, if you just have to look at these two seats, what we see is Smriti Irani took on a big risk in Amethi, but maybe Pragya Thakur wasn't taking on a big risk in Bhopal. But we're seeing, that in both cases they're doing well. So the two symbolic messages are what? I mean, really Congress Mukt Bharat and Hindi, Hindustan.
But I mean, I would just, a little caveat here. If we really believe that Pragya Thakur was a big vote catcher, then she would have been put in a very competitive seat, right? So the reality is that the BJP fielded her in a very safe seat. So it was a seat in which you are using the candidate to send a signal to the rest of the country or the rest of the base, not somebody who you believe can be a vote catcher, right? And so the symbolic value is there, but not necessarily because the BJP believes that somehow she's an electoral vote catcher within a constituency.
Last question, let me ask you. Since you've been focusing so much on North India and the Hindi belt, and since, as you said, Modi seems to have taken this entire Hindi belt as one state and not really as different states, where do you see the rub, the friction, the reflection really with the southern states, which all really maintain their individual character and they have very specific, distinct individual leaders? So, I mean, is there a rub or, what's the sort of takeaway really when you, I mean, are we looking at really one North India with many southern Indias? Or what?
See, I mean, I think to understand the difference in the BJP's footprint in these regions, you also have to understand the organizational differences. The reality is that as we've seen a large amount of state failure in the Hindi belt, the RSS, in a very serious way, and the BJP organization has been sort of a parallel state, especially in places like Madhya Pradesh, where Shivraj Singh Chauhan was ruling for 15 years. And so these are places where not just Modi, but all of the people that Modi is communicating with are able to get directly to the voter, and they're able to sort of affect outcomes. That kind of reach is not there in the South. So what we're seeing is exactly this kind of consolidation, but it's really a larger story about how the BJP organization has been able to sort of dominate this space, especially vis-a-vis the Congress. Obviously, in the South, you have a very different kind of politics, and where you don't have that kind of organizational footprint.
All right, on that, Neelanjan, thanks so much.